Prescott fires for Cooks, and it's intercepted. Jair Alexander.
With the 2024 NFL season fast approaching, it's not too early to peer into the crystal ball and see which notable superstars are bound to disappoint this year. And of course, which big-name veterans are set to rebound after a shaky 2023. So with that said, let's dive into 5 NFL superstars who will decline in 2024 and 5 who are poised to bounce back. Decline, Josh Allen. Allen deserves all the credit in the world for carrying the Buffalo Bills on his back over the final stretch of the season. He returned to Superman form following a midseason offensive coordinator change and led Buffalo on a 5-game winning streak to close out the year and snag a 4th straight AFC East division crown. Of course, that only ended with another miserable postseason defeat, with Buffalo falling to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round via wide right part 2. As well, the Bills bid farewell to several key players, including Allen's top 2 receivers in Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, plus Pro Bowl center Mitch Morse. Losing Diggs, traded to the Houston Texans, is especially a tough one for Allen to stomach. He put up over 100 catches and more than 1,100 yards receiving each year in Buffalo. Yeah, good luck replacing that kind of production. The cap-strapped Bills had to settle on cheaper wide receivers in free agency: Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Chase Claypool. They used the number 33 pick on Florida State wideout Keon Coleman, one of the ultimate boomer-bust prospects in this entire class. So, Allen lost perhaps his best offensive lineman and his 2 best receivers, including a guy who was unquestionably a top 5 wideout in the game. And did we mention that Allen still threw a career-high 18 interceptions last season? Yeah. A down year is looming for Mr. Allen, all right. Bounce back, Jaylin Herds. Herds finished second in MVP voting for 2022, and he likely would have beaten Patrick Mahomes if he didn't miss 2 games due to injury. Herds and his Philadelphia Eagles got off to a blistering start in 2023 and look poised for a return to the Super Bowl. They were rolling at 10-1 coming off statement wins over Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo. But the Eagles just imploded with losses in 5 of their final 6 games, handing the NFC East to the Cowboys on a silver platter. The season then ended with a humiliating blowout loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wildcard round. Though Hertz set career highs in passing yards and passing TDs last season, he still threw a career-high 15 interceptions. He only had 1 outing with multiple TD passes over his last 6 games, a stretch that included 3 games without a single passing score. Well, it's on to 2024 now. And to put it simply, the Eagles are just way too talented and loaded offensively to endure another collapse like that. Nick Sirianni brought in one of the game's best offensive-minded coaches in Kellen Moore to serve as his OC. The Eagles also made a big-time splash by signing former New York Giants superstar running back Saquon Barkley. As if the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert receiving trio wasn't scary enough as is. Philly still boasts a top-tier offensive line, and their defense should return to its elite 2022 form after an uncharacteristically bad 2023 season. At least that's the hope. We'll see. But with a grade A supporting cast and more now running the offense, expect Hertz to jump back into Tier 1 of NFL quarterbacks. Tush push galore. Decline, Stephon Diggs. Deciding that they couldn't deal with Diggs or stomach his hefty contract anymore, the Bills traded Diggs to the Houston Texans, along with 2024 6th and 2025 5th round picks, for a 2025 second rounder. Diggs then agreed to a reworked contract that allows him to enter free agency in 2025. All we can say is that it's a significant risk for a player who figures to endure quite a drop in production this year. Now, it's not necessarily because Diggs doesn't have Josh Allen thrown to him anymore. Diggs is going from one elite QB to another in CJ Stroud, who put up an MVP caliber season last year. But the reason to believe that Diggs will decline this year is pretty obvious. Whereas he was the only true star and game-changing offensive weapon in Buffalo, Diggs now has to vie for targets on a deeper and way more well-rounded Houston offense. The Texans have 2 rising stars at wideout, Nico Collins, and 2023 rookie sensation Tank Dell. They acquired 4-time 1,000-yard rusher Joe Mixon to lead the ground game, and veteran tight end Dalton Schultz is absolutely no slouch himself, having consistent 50-catch, 600-yard seasons. Diggs will still produce in Houston, make no mistake. I mean, heck, of course he's going to make them much better. But in terms of individual stats, a considerable drop-off in production now awaits. He will not come close to 100 catches this upcoming season, and even 1,000 yards receiving may be asking for a bit too much. Bounce back, T. Higgins. 2023 was a year to forget for Higgins, to say the very least. For starters, the Cincinnati Bengals' playoff hopes were doomed once they lost star quarterback Joe Burrow for the year with a wrist injury. And while Jamar Chase turned in another excellent season, Higgins himself struggled with consistency from start to finish. The Clemson product missed 5 games due to injury and finished with a disappointing stat line of 42 receptions for 656 yards and 5 touchdowns. But, all signs point to a bounce-back year for Higgins, who's going to play 2024 under the franchise tag before presumably leaving in 2025 free agency. So, yeah, he will be ultra-motivated to produce like a superstar again this year. Oh, and having his starting quarterback for a full year will only help matters for Higgins too. Not to be Captain Obvious, but having Burrow feeding you the ball is quite the upgrade from Jake Browning. The departures of Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon will also open up more room for Higgins in the offense. He is the undisputed number 2 weapon now for Burrow, so expect the 5th-year wideout to regain his superstar form here in what will likely be his final season with the Bengals. Decline, L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed had the best season of his young 4-year career in 2023, playing a monumental role in the Chiefs securing a 2nd straight Super Bowl championship. Sneed had 2 interceptions and 14 pass breakups. He didn't allow a single TD in coverage during the regular season and yielded only a 56.2 passer rating when targeted, according to Pro Football Reference. But the cap-strapped Chiefs just couldn't afford to retain Sneed long-term, so he was dealt to the Tennessee Titans in exchange for a 3rd-round pick and a swap of 2024 7th-rounders. Sneed then signed a 4-year extension worth $76.4 million. Now, as great as Sneed was in Kansas City, you'll have to mark us down as skeptical that he'll experience similar success in the Music City. Steve Spagnuolo is one of the all-time great defensive-minded coaches who will always get the most out of his cornerbacks. Andy Reid is a future Hall of Famer. Meanwhile, the Titans are a rebuilding squad with a brand new coaching staff led by Brian Callahan and DC Dennard Wilson. Sneed will work with a fraction of the talent in Tennessee that he had with the Chiefs. There is no Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie, Justin Reed, or Nick Bolton here. The Titans have one of the worst secondaries in football, with 0 proven stars back there. Now, this isn't to say that Sneed will never gain that superstar form again in Tennessee, but there's gonna be at least one tough year of growing pains and adjustments as he goes from the NFL's model organization to a young team in rebuilding mode. Bounce back, Jair Alexander. The 2-time Pro Bowler and 2-time second-team All-Pro missed the majority of a season because of injuries for the 2nd straight year. Alexander missed 13 games in 2021 and all but 7 games in 2023. Not only did Alexander finish with 0 picks in those games, but the 66.7 completion percentage when targeted and the opposing 113.4 passer rating allowed marked career worst for him per Pro Football Reference. But then, Alexander regained his superstar form just in time for the postseason. He had a game-changing interception off Dak Prescott in the Green Bay Packers blowout win over the Dallas Cowboys and helped keep the dynamic receiving tandem of Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb in check. So, yeah, obviously, a healthy Alexander makes all the difference for Green Bay. But the supporting cast around him also improved with the signing of ex-New York Giants star safety Xavier McKinney and the pickup of Georgia DB Javon Bullard in round 2. Throw in a much-needed change at defensive coordinator with Jeff Hatley replacing Joe Barry, and the sky is the limit for this Green Bay group. A healthy Alexander will reemerge as a top 5 corner in the league and help this talented but underachieving Green Bay unit regain its elite form. Decline, Najee Harris. Pittsburgh's 2021 first-round pick crossed 1,000 yards rushing for the 3rd straight year, even posting a career-high 8 rushing TDs in 2023. But the Steelers are clearly planning on reducing Harris's workload in 2024. Otherwise, they wouldn't have declined the 5th-year option on his rookie deal. Consider this a good thing for the Steelers' offense, though. Harris won't hit 1,000 yards again for 2 simple reasons. For starters, they actually have a decent quarterback room now in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who are both upgrades over the Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky trio. Secondly, the Steelers will lean more on Jaylen Warren, who had 784 rushing yards and 1,154 yards of offense as Harris's understudy last year. There is a very real chance here that Warren takes over as the lead RB in Pittsburgh. Harris will still get his touches and make big-time plays, no doubt, but this Pittsburgh offense will transition to a more pass-happy unit with Wilson and/or Fields, and Warren promises to get a much bigger slice of the pie this time around. So, Najee Harris fantasy owners, prepare prepare to be a little disappointed this year. Don't say that we didn't warn ya. Bounce back, Joey Bosa. Injuries have limited the Los Angeles Chargers star edge rusher to just 14 total games over the past 2 years. Bosa was the subject of trade and cut rumors, but the Bolts wound up bringing him back on a restructured deal, and smartly so. The success of this defense depends on a healthy and productive Bosa. New head coach Jim Harbaugh is all about winning in the trenches, which is why the offensive line and running back positions were addressed this offseason. The Bolts didn't have to adjust the front seven though, because they know what a healthy Bosa and Khalil Mack can do together. If Bosa avoids the injury bug this year, the 4-time Pro Bowler will regain his elite form and reassert himself into the tier of top NFL pass rushers. 67 sacks in 93 career games is nothing to scoff at, folks. And who knows, Bosa might take his game to another level that we have yet to see, with Harbaugh now running the show over a much less qualified guy like Brandon Staley. Decline DJ Moore. Moore was a godsend of a pickup for the Chicago Bears as a part of the return in the Bryce Young trade. He formed immediate chemistry with Justin Fields, tallying 1,364 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Only 5 players finished with more receiving yards than Moore, who has now exceeded 1,000 yards receiving in 4 of the last 5 years. With first overall pick Caleb Williams taking over as the new starting QB in Windy City, Moore should be even better after posting a career year with a mediocre passer like Justin Fields. I mean, that's at least the thought, but no, I don't think that's going to happen. You see, in fact, you shouldn't be too shocked if Moore actually sets career lows in 2024. Not that it's a bad thing for the Bears. They traded for 6-time Pro Bowler Keenan Allen in a trade with the Chicago Bears. It's essentially a coin flip there between who Williams will turn to more in the passing game. And then with the number 9 pick, they drafted 5-star wide receiver prospect Rome Odunze out of Washington. Odunze's skill set is so high that he could easily emerge as Williams' number 1 guy over both Moore and Allen. Not to mention, the Bears also have one of football's top running back tandems in DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert. There's only one football to go around. Everyone needs their fair share of touches, so expect a considerable statistical decline from Moore here, which again is a good thing for the Bears overall. It means that everyone else on the offense is actually just doing their job. Bounce back, Trevor Lawrence. An awful late-season meltdown saw the Jacksonville Jaguars finish 9-8 to miss out on the postseason. The AFC South was right in their grasps until they gift-wrapped it to C.J. Stroud's Houston Texans. After throwing 25 touchdowns against only 8 picks last year, T-Law had just 21 TDs against 14 interceptions. 3 off the league-leading 17 that he threw in his 2021 rookie year. Not to worry, Jaguars fans, Lawrence is bound to bounce back following a tremendous offseason performance by general manager Trent Baalke. The Jaguars signed ex-Bills deep threat Gabe Davis in free agency and picked up star center Mitch Morse to bolster the O-line following his release from Buffalo. They used a first-round pick on explosive LSU wideout Brian Thomas Jr., who should offset the departure of Calvin Ridley. So, aside from an improved offensive line, Lawrence has 5 capable 1,000-yard weapons here in Thomas Jr., Davis, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and Travis Etienne Jr. Add it all up, and Lawrence promises to show that he was worth that $275 million extension. But hey, which other NFL superstars are going to decline in 2024, and which ones do you think will bounce back? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, well, subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.